know. Oh, we're just sitting outside in the sunshine in the back door. It's really nice here.
I don't want to hear. I have a hoodie and a toque on
I know, and I
inside
saw you
right
in
now.
the snow. What's that?
It's not okay. I don't know. It's Canada in the spring. That one day, like someone was saying, we don't get spring. We just get like a nice day and then a rainy day and a snowy day, and all of a sudden it's summer. Like it's just we miss it altogether.
Yeah. Well, I'm
Yeah,
in Scotland, so it's not that much better here.
sounds like it is. So,
It
um,
is today. It is today.
yeah, I was just reflecting. Yesterday, you were just like bubbling over during the conversation the whole
Oh,
time.
yeah. Do you know, it was so interesting as well, because I was actually in the car park, and you randomly like listen, hear these podcasts and people live and stuff like that. And mostly it's like Pilates and movement and information and things like that. But I'm like such a true believer in the work, like the work of the mind, the body, and obviously yourself. And that's why the conversation went in the way that it went. And
Yes.
I was like, oh my God, I was oozing with joy and delight at your authenticity, both of you. And who was the guy you were speaking to? Was it
Stefan.
Stefan? Okay. And the true and the realness and the openness of just what you're speaking about. I was just like, yes. I was like, yes, this is really good, because I think it's an area that I always try to go in, and I try to I'll live in that place, but then other people maybe are uncomfortable or hiding and ashamed and fearful, and
Yes.
and this because you've been there, like I've been there, so I know what that's like. And even now, even like, it was funny because when you were talking yesterday, I was like, oh God, I was like, that way of like, oh, you're talking about forgiveness, and I was like, oh my God, there's so much I could share here and say, but it doesn't change the vulnerability, it doesn't change the fear, it doesn't change, like, it's still scary, like it's still heartfelt, do you know what I mean? But you're either in a place to talk about it or not. And I just thought it was really brave of you both to be openly speaking about it, and when it's in a platform like this that other people can see, but you're not seeing them, and what's being said. And I thought it was just it was brilliant. I was like, yes, I was like, you guys are going there, like,
I was almost like watching us go there, if you know what I
yeah
mean.
yeah. And I think that's why I was booming on it, because I was like, yeah, yes, like, great, go there, like, speak about what we are, what I think this is what helps other people come out with not being ashamed and fearful, is that, like, because I've lived that, and it's horrible, it's suppressing, and it keeps you small. And I think I definitely have because I've lived small, so I have quite a passion, a compassion as well, to help others not live that way, but when they're ready. When
they're ready, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Well, even like we were saying about, like, when you live from a place of being vulnerable, not everyone's ready to reciprocate that. So you feel like sometimes you're just throwing stuff out there, and you're putting too much of yourself out there sometimes, and you don't want to be guarded, but you also recognize that may be uncomfortable for the other person or people or group, whatever the case is, or they're just not ready to go there, right? So there's this, when moments like that conversation yesterday happened, it's you lean into it, right? And you choose, okay, I am going to put that out there, okay, I am going to talk about that. And I was still kind of measured with my words with certain things, because I didn't want to incriminate people, I didn't want to make people look like a villain, but I wanted to share my perspective and my lived experience on those things, right? So it's a dance, it really is. It was sensitive. So I've been thinking about that conversation. I didn't want to just invite, people like you who were in yesterday, and some people messaged me privately afterwards, and were really, they're like, that's the best conversation you ever had. That really did, I did really relate. It's powerful, right? Like, I mean, like it hits home. It doesn't matter where you are in your life. Everyone can relate with someone doing something that hurts you and you have to deal with it apart from that person at a baseline. You know what I mean? Like,
yes. And when the person isn't there, which is often the case, I think that's my hardest thing, when the other person isn't there, so you can to process it, because process it, like, you know, there's the stage of avoiding processing it and not doing that, but then there's equally like, how do you process it when the person is or isn't there? And also it's just so interesting. It's also like James, your conversation yesterday, it was just your whole conversation about forgiveness. I thought it was so and it's, do you know, as well, the other thing is that I've done so much, you know, like physical body work, and you know, like you know, we can do the, you know, Pilates, and I think that's where I realized, like, wow, it's here just as much as it is, you know, here, because you know, because I think because my mind and because my heart, and I was hurt, then it becomes a fight with yourself, because, you know, you're trying to physically, you know, whether I've done it in a Pilates class, or whether I've done it with, you know, mat work, or different instructors, or, you know, aerial or apparatus, or, you know, incredible instructors, none of that really matters. What matters is timing, and hence the teacher will come at the right time. But it's also like in your mind process of it as well, and like being able to like being in a place where you're receptive and you're open, and so you're not forcing, whether it's forgiveness or whether it's moving in your body, like it, like I've never had, actually it's so interesting, it's like it's just it's everything you were saying is really good. It's just, I think
your mind's just like
oh my god, honestly, I could like go there in so many ways, and I honestly was so I don't know if the word's proud, but I was so proud of your conversation yesterday, like booming it on, because it was just, I think it's really great that we do talk about it. And like forgiveness is like, you know, like I think like, you know, letting go is like how, like people talk about it, but how, like, you know, just let go. Yeah, people talk about forgiveness, but how, like, and saying it doesn't mean you've done it, like
sorry, can I just jump in with something right there that really stood out to me yesterday? Is when Stefan was talking about how, and for those who didn't watch yesterday, he was talking about his split and the things that he learned from his ex, and he wrote a letter to her or messaged her and said basically like, these are the things I learned, this is what I took away from this experience, and there was no response. So he did that 4 times before she responded, and then after we talked about that and saying like that wasn't for her, that was for him. We understand that piece. But what we did, we spent some time on the fact that we don't always in life have the luxury of closure. The luxury of having that conversation with that person to say, hey, I forgive you. You hurt me, but I feel like, you mean like that luxury of finding that closure with the other person, regardless of whatever that person group, whatever did, that this is your own work. And we really stayed centered on that sense of this is your own work yesterday, which I loved. Instead of vilifying the other people or people out there, you know?
Yeah, completely. I could speak about so much within this as well. Exactly. I know. And you both did it very delicate, not delicate. You both did it very.
No, actually, I think delicate's the word. That's the word I was looking for earlier. It is. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's definitely it for me anyway.
I think that is the process of true forgiveness. Like if you're still vilifying and blaming, then you're not in a space to truly forgive, then I think, like, but and you know, also there's nothing wrong with doing that as part of the process at the first step, you know, I think as well.
Or just just having a sense of understanding with the person when they're in that stage, that's a stage.
It's stages, and that's the whole thing of the process. Everything is, and I think that's the key, is like being surrounded by, you know, maybe it's just 1 or 2 people or friends, you know, it doesn't have to be you're surrounded by loads of friends, but surrounded by people that can hold you in that space, and that can listen and let you go through a process and not have to like jump to, oh, but you need to let that go, or you know, it's like, no, let all the steps happen, like let all the stages happen, like and I think it's such a, without being dramatic, but it's such a life-changing thing. I think I had a experience during lockdown, like right in the depths of it at the start, and obviously everyone's like, you know, more in their bubbles or isolated or whatever it was, and I literally had I was in my car, and I received a text message, and I remember thinking, like, you know, because I was on my own the whole time, and so I remember thinking it was such a powerful moment. And this was actually when you were talking about it yesterday, because what you said, what was your quote about forgiveness? Something about the conscious thinking of the conscious thought.
The quote? Yeah. So
yeah, it was like being conscious of forgiving the other, giving
deliberate. Yeah, the conscious, deliberate decision to release feelings of resentment or vengeance towards a person or group that has harmed you, regardless of if they deserve your forgiveness.
Right. Okay. So the deliberate,
conscious decision.
That's what was interesting when you said this, because it made my mind think, and I was like, because the moment
she's got a phone call coming through, probably. One moment, please. Hopefully she's not got her. Pilates Bear, how's it going? And gluten-free D. All right, let's get her back in here. Good. Yeah, so Pilates Bear and Phil, solid conversation yesterday. Man, and I felt like just leaning into a conversation about forgiveness on this platform, I wasn't sure if it was going to take or not, and it turned out to be really like a life-giving, life-changing conversation in many ways. Please check that out, and I'm sure Deborah will be back in a minute as soon as she gets in. Maybe her phone died, not sure what the deal is, but if anyone else was here yesterday and wants to join me at the same time, I can bring both of you on once Debbie comes back in. Give me a thumbs up if you want to join. It was an interesting conversation from the perspective of, I don't know how many times people have witnessed two men having a heart-to-heart conversation. It's almost like you all were a fly on the wall in a conversation, because I really didn't care about who was in the chat. I was like, we were like eye to eye in this conversation, and it really didn't matter who was watching from the perspective of, let's polish this up for the audience, or let's do this, or let's change something to something more interesting in case this is boring people. We just got into this conversation, and where it's like you were just watching this happen, this glass house conversation. So I thought it was life-giving. Hi, Nisha. Thanks for joining us. Let's see here. Yawning away here. Pilates with Anisha, where are you located? And also Nelson, for a second. I know some people are popping up off of Air Control Pilates feed as well. So new here, so welcome. Debbie's right in the middle of a great point too, man. I'm like just waiting to hear what she had to say. All right, here she is.
I'm so sorry.
That was like the biggest dramatic effect pause.
I know. I was like, you know what? I had literally, right, this never happens to me, but my phone, like normally I'm like on it, my phone ran out of battery because I've been sitting out the back doing admin in the sunshine. And then as I was doing it, I was like, wait, what? What was that? I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Yeah, so you're like right in the middle of saying deliberate action and how that piece of the phrase resonated with you.
Right. So what was I saying? Oh, Pilates Bear, you're the best.
I know, right?
What was I saying? Okay, so oh yes, okay, so you were saying the conscious decision to forgive someone.
Deliberate.
Deliberate. Right. Okay, so I don't know what this is, but this is what I was thinking yesterday. So I'm maybe still processing it myself because as you said it, yeah, I was in the car.
Okay.
We're like all I was in the car yesterday as well. But it was during lockdown and it was when we were in the depths of it. And it was, it was a scary time when nobody really knew what was happening. Like, the world was in this lockdown. So it was all quite dramatic. And as it obviously still is. But, and I received a message and I remember thinking like, you almost like, oh, I could go to town with this, feel, self-pity and hard on myself and really bad. And like, really being, anyway. And then I just had this moment. It was the weirdest experience. And it was like I didn't choose to. And I remember thinking, I don't know. It was just a powerful moment. I can't even really express it in words. And then I had this like, this like lightness just right across my whole chest, this lightness, this like booming feeling of just light openness. And to be honest, it felt like forgiveness. Like it was just an instant open, like free, energetic, open, no one was telling me to open my sternum up to the sky, or you know what I mean? There was no cue of
no physical cue. Yeah.
Widen my shoulders and lift my head and whatever it was. I just had this moment that shifted so much. It was almost like I had been like, in the past maybe forcing or trying, doing everything I could. And I'm gonna put myself out there, and this is scary for me. And it's not scary, but it's vulnerable for me. And it was a message from my mum. So and that's kind of like where a lot of my hurt is. I'm not in communications, and so to receive communications during lockdown, and it wasn't a good or positive situation, and it was just so could have been really really just destroying, and I didn't. And I in that moment I just had it was just peace, and it was like, and then I was like, wow. And I surprised myself. I was like, yes. Oh, and I was like, wow. I was like, right. And I was almost on a high from it because I was like, that's forgiveness. Like, it's for me. And I was like, oh, yeah. I really get it. Like,
amazing.
Yeah.
There's that, isn't that sense of like, well, what deliberate action like is you're in that moment, you're choosing not to be angry, you're choosing not to seek vengeance. So you're not there's something about feeling like you're a slave to the emotion. Like you're a slave, like I'm just compelled to do something with revenge, or like I'm compelled to. And then when you have that moment of freedom and that moment of forgiveness, it's like that lightness and that sense of like urgency to do something in retaliation isn't there.
And but do you know what though? I think that moment came not just, like out of the blue. And like, I associate everything back to Pilates. I can't help it. I guess it's not Pilates, but it's movement, my movement journey. I just naturally do it. And then I thought, because as you were saying this yesterday, like, I was like, you think about your journey, you think about your own and things like that. And I guess because I've done so much, like work on myself, like whether it's mind or healing or body or stuff. So I always relate it back to things have been the physicality, because I always feel like they just go hand in hand. Like I can't
Absolutely.
not. Right.
Yes.
I just sometimes feels like, I feel like sometimes it's like a sales pitch. It's like, oh my God, that's actually like the authenticity, like you were saying.
It's genuine for sure.
It really is. And I felt like it's because I've done the work, that moment happened because of all the process, the previous work. It's like, you know, if you were standing there and you had your leg up in the air, your leg's up in the air because you've done all this, you know, work, like body work to get there, you know, like
yes.
And it's the same as like with the mind work. It's like you do all this kind of, you know, mental work along the way. So I think that there's like a mind journey of steps. So for me to have that powerful moment in the car, finally, I didn't try for it. I wasn't like, I need to forget, like it was just, it like boom happened, and I was like, oh, I was like, that's forgiveness. Like it happened. I didn't try.
The something you said in there too, Debbie, is that sense of like all of a sudden it happened. But like, I don't know about you, but like we have clients where one day they're just able to do an exercise that they have been working on for months, and it's just like all of a sudden they can do tree, or all of a sudden they can do a teaser. It's like, well, no, it's not all of a sudden. Like you've been doing all this prep work that didn't look like it was prep work.
Yeah. And I think that's when I think if I see my clients or feel my clients are getting bored with the small work, the detail, I think I'll always like be like, this might all be boring and small, but it's gonna like play such a powerful role later.
Yes. Right. And sometimes we lose sight of the connection to the bigger goal. Right. And I'll get Paul's comment in a second. Sometimes we lose connection to that bigger goal, but like what you said there, like your moment of just feeling the sudden freedom, the sudden forgiveness, and the sudden lightness came as a result of small things that you're doing up until that moment. So in that moment, there isn't this mental assent like, okay, today I'm going to forgive everything that comes my way. I'm ready. Like there was nothing of that, right? Like
and I don't know if that really works. I think it can bring awareness, like but it then it feels to me anyway, it would feel more forced, like
yes.
But I love the process of like I love it when the process leads to a you know, value in the end result, if you see what I mean. Like, because I think that it's just so often we hide from it and we play small and we do all these things, and you know, we want, you know, we want the end result, but I think it's not trying to get the end result, whether it's forgiveness or, you know, whatever it is.
Let's read Paul's comment here. He says, it's often like an emotional blackmail whereby we torture ourselves. Being selfish and allowing yourself to heal or forgive a painful memory to disperse is incredibly hard introspection at work. Yes, that it is hard introspection at work, like to get to that place of being selfish in a good way and allow yourself to heal. There's almost a sense of, and we talked on this a little bit yesterday, you wear it like a badge of honor when you beat yourself up and you do these things and you live in this place, and you have to get to a place where you take time for yourself. And even if it looks like what Stefan was saying yesterday about how there was times when he was making decisions and letting some things go so that he could heal. And then people were on him for not, you know, reacting to it or doing something or getting even. He's like, no, this is how this selfishness of doing something to take care of myself, even if it looked like I'm justified in doing something different, I'm going to do this because this is best for me in my healing journey. And I love that, because you look weak in those moments when the reality is that you're gaining your strength by doing it.
Yes, that sentence right there. Yeah. And also, do you know as well, because when like, what is looking weak? Like, you know,
And to
what,
whom? Like who's just like
yeah,
who is making the judgment call on what weak is? Who's defining
yeah,
that for you? That's the question I was asked. Like who is actually determining your decision making process? Who are you
mm,
catering to when you do all these different things? Like you said, what makes you weak? Who is defining what weak is? And why have
yeah,
you given them permission to define it for you?
yeah, yes, 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 yes. And also, I think, oh yeah, just that. There's so much in here as well that's worth um leaning into and discussing. And I think there's a lot in here. God, it's so powerful. Why is it so powerful for movement instructors as well? I guess it's
Yeah.
because we shift bodies, and then you know the mind shifts too, and it's that element of bringing both together and knowing that one affects the other.
Yes. Yeah, you know, and if I can just change gears ever so slightly in this
Yeah.
conversation, I was talking with my client this morning about one of the past conversations we had around um, your ideal client and who finds you. When Pilates Carrie was on, and she was saying, "Well, I like working with these people, but these are the people that find me." So my client and I were talking about that this morning about like who he's a psychologist and like he may want to work with a certain type of people, but certain people find you. So we kind of explored how is it that people find you? Why is it that certain people gravitate to you and stuff? And we had this conversation,
Mm.
and we landed at the word genuine.
Mm.
And what comes to that is like when people recognize that you're genuine, that's what attracts people to you. So whether we're having this conversation about forgiveness and just doing that personal work so that we can present ourselves as authentically ourselves when we're in front of our people or not, that reassures our clients. So where I'm going with for everyone who's watching this is that when your client comes in and they're like, okay, is Debbie really like rah 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 all the time? Like, is she really that excited about movement? This does she really just is she just like saying this to you know to make me excited about it, or is she actually like that? When our new clients ask that question, is she actually like that? Is he actually like that? Like, does he live this out or not?
Yeah.
That's a genuine piece, and people stay with you when they've made their judgment call that you are a person of integrity. Like what I do when
Yeah.
no one's watching is exactly
Yeah.
the same as what I do when I'm talking to you right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because actually I think that um as instructors it's valuable to be that way, to be
Yes.
genuine and authentic. And so as instructors, that's like to I mean, only just when you said that now, I think, wow, that's quite a, like, not a demand, but that's quite a, you know, because we're not asking our clients to show, and our clients don't show up like that. Like, and we're not asking them to. And it's,
Right.
so I think, do you know what? It makes you realize, like, how our path, like, our role, what it is,
Yes. It's
like, just that, like,
yes. Yes.
right.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we take it
Because,
seriously. Like, I mean, I think that we
yeah.
recognize the magnitude of the impact that we can have on people when we do this right.
Yes. Yeah, 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 yeah. And that's, yes, exactly. And that is good and it's powerful and it's great. But you know what? I think only now I kind of realize how much of a rocket that is. Like, because then it's, but you know, at the same time, it's just like, just be yourself. It's like,
That's
but
exactly
then
where I was going with this. There's no
right.
pressure in that because the ask is to just be yourself.
Yeah.
So I have permission. Like my client said this on Saturday. Like she said she had a rough week, and one of her clients said, "You just weren't your sunshine self today." And one of her clients said that to her, and I was like, "Well, what does that mean?
Oh.
Like, am I supposed to come in with a smile every single day? Am I not
Yeah.
allowed to have a rough day? Am I not allowed to? I mean, like, I think that our clients can box us in. I think that the authenticity of who we are means that I can come in and be like, listen, I'm tired today. Sorry, I'm late today. I tried my best, just like I tried my best yesterday, and everything went perfect. And that's just how this is today.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think that there needs to be that authenticity in that way too, where the awesomeness of what we're doing doesn't mean that we have to have this polished, perfect, immaculate product that we put out too.
Yeah. Do you know what though? We do ask a lot of ourselves as Pilates.
Thank you.
Now that we're discussing it, I think, yeah, that's a lot, because you're trying to be authentic. Well, you're being authentic. You're being yourself, but equally you want to create a pathway, like, you know, and give space for other people. But equally, you have to be inspiring, like, because you know you want to be inspiring, but then still be yourself and be vulnerable. Like, it's like that delicate balance again of you know, that, because it's like when I was leaving Edinburgh, because I was in Edinburgh for years, and I had my studio, and like, and I knew then, like, and I was, you know, I went through a little window where I was like, oh, I'm not, you know, because then I'd been given notice in a house I'd been in for like years, and you know, I wasn't like myself, and it was hard to show up and be my normal self, but then vulnerable, but then, you know, and then, you know, that's hard. It is hard as a Pilates instructor. But then, like you said, sometimes when you said yesterday, you throw yourself into work and you just enjoy it. So sometimes it's nice to, you know, go to your work or do your work and then be like, I'm going to be this role today. I'm going to, you know, be there's, because I wouldn't always show up and be like, actually, I'm having an awful day or awful time right now. But it's hard. It's definitely a fine line being authentically when you're struggling. I
love this. That, like, we're probably scaring people off from becoming Pilates people at this point. I think that it's not.
Yeah, I know. Actually, it's not.
Like, I'm an overthinker too, right? So I think that when we start to get into this place and we start to just like take all these pieces apart, if I was to bring it back into something, I would say that if we're creating a safe space for our clients, we're also creating a safe space for ourselves.
Yes, very true. Right? Which is important.
It's important, and I think that that's where we have to assert ourselves and establish that, so that I can go in and be like, you know, you've had a rough day, we can just talk today and it's fine, or we had a rough day and we're gonna just move and to get your mind off it. But then I also needs to be a safe enough space that I could say, I'm taking today off because I don't have it today. You know what I mean? Like, it needs to be safe in that way too, where people recognize that the bottom line is that this is a place where we can improve from where we are today. So where are you today? And let's give space to where you are today so we can move from that spot, as opposed to saying, well, you're not where you were yesterday.
Yeah.
Those are two different conversations. So I want to just give space for people where they are today, and also create space for me where I am today, so that we can all get better. And these are reciprocating relationships that we're in.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's really key. I think being able to be who you are right in this moment is key.
Yep.
For instruct, like you say, you create that space, that safe space for instructor, for clients, for all. Yeah.
Yes. So
it's good.
In the last 2 days, we've solved like all the problems of the world interpersonally, and thanks for joining us. It's the last episode ever. No, I'm just kidding. That's good stuff, Debbie. Like, I think that's I like these conversations because I go into my next client with this greater sense of intentionality with what we're doing.
Right. Yeah. Because I think then you know why you're moving. Like, what are you moving? What's moving? Like.
Yes.
And also, like, it's like liberating. Mind and body.
Absolutely liberating. Absolutely.
Yeah. And if that brings us, like, you know, joy and freshness and wholeness, then I'm all up for more of it. Whether it's, you know, talking like this on a platform, or whether it's the physicality and exploring different conversations and different movements.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
The topic for today was a date with yourself. So if I can just squeeze that into this conversation somehow, can I just shoehorn that into the conversation? And
Yeah.
actually, let me just put it down for a second. I want to read Love Movement Fly's comment here. So resonating! Exclamation mark. By acknowledging the space we are in, we give permission to others to do so as well, whether with us or others later. Yeah, absolutely. I think that that's like the others later. I think that's key too, because like we are also establishing that this is what is supposed to happen when you come into a space where you're working from the inside out. We're working on your movement, where your movement's connected to where you are. So I mean, like I think that when we could establish that as the baseline, the more conversations we have like this, the more people that will watch us on a replay and start to think about their own work and how they present their work. Like I see Marion here too, like Blaze Plies, there's others here. There's some great movement teachers, and the more that we start to think more intentionally with all these things, it just elevates all of our game, right? So that's good stuff.
Yeah. I think
yeah,
as
go ahead,
well,
please.
what I find is when you speak about things, you think, oh, like, because, you know, we're not just on our own teaching and leading, and there's other things that go through your, you know, the mind process with it all as well. So I think it's really good that you openly have these conversations.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, because like you maybe just thinking about it in the corner of your mind, and now you see it at the forefront on a platform in public, and you're like, that's maybe I need to make a date with myself and write some of these things down.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, like, but even yesterday when you were speaking, it wasn't, you know, it just started a process in the mind that naturally happens as well.
yes, right. And that's
you're
why
with yourself all the time, so
yeah, exactly. Yes, okay, so that's exactly it. So you're with yourself all the time, but like the thing says there, like a date with yourself. When do we get away from working in our business and start to work on our business? You know what I'm saying? Like when do we get this time to stop and actually evaluate, okay, I have 9 clients in a row today, but I didn't really get a chance to work on myself, work on my business, focus on what I want to focus on, all those different things. So when do we carve out time to refine these things, to give some more space to this? Like, you know what I mean? Like it's one thing to talk about it, and then, you know, it's 10:43 here, 17 minutes, I got to lock off to run to my next client. And then it sits in the back of my head, but I don't want to actually get a chance to process it.
Yeah. And is that with yourself or for your business? Is that?
They're so intertwined these days. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
So whether it's like you looking at like the bigger picture of you within your business, so not doing it, but you like within it, or within, because when you were saying earlier, like we were saying like we're always with ourselves. It's like, I guess it's like, and it says a date with yourself. So I guess it's like, what is that date gonna look like? So is it that you're and you said yesterday about conflict brings us closer together as well.
Makes
so
us stronger,
like,
yes.
Right. So is it like a conflict conversation with yourself? Is it a conversation with yourself about the work and the bigger process, or is it, you know, like what does that date look like with yourself? Like
yes,
because we're with ourselves all the time, but what are we what kind of date do we want? What, you know, is it and I think that's quite hard as again as Pilates instructors. I guess I'm feeling like I'm not just on my own here. Like there is a few of us, and you lead that, I think, make you feel like, okay, I'm not just on my own here thinking, God, how am I juggling that, and how am I juggling this, and how am I doing that, and like wondering, like, but
yeah, those are all such good thoughts. I gotta chew on that too. Love movement play is also put in here. I'd also add that it can enhance a class sometimes, as movement almost always helps us move out of that funk, or helps our clients. So like our own movement practice helps us to enhance that too.
So does.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's just a mindset. I think that it's just shifting your gaze towards yourself and just being, okay, what does this mean for me? Like even the conversation over the last 2 days, like today, yesterday, and today, I'm gonna listen through these again, and just see how I'm living that out. Are those just words? Where is the test? Where's the battlegrounds for the things that we're talking about?
Yeah, but sometimes I think that the process happens naturally. Like like again, you're saying, like exactly. When you were talking yesterday, like you just there's natural points within your day. Like if you just listen to a conversation, like I was just listening to you yesterday, and then a natural process happened in my mind because I heard your words. Like I didn't need to go and write anything down or like be like, oh, I need to work this out, figure it out. It's like your mind figures it out for you.
Yes.
I think sometimes just being open and listening to a conversation and just being able to hear the words. You don't even have to feel them or agree with them, but just let it happen. Like, and then there's no like, I've got to go away and do that. It's like, no, you don't. It's just listen. Just hear the conversation.
Yep.
Yep.
You just exposed my overthinker wanting to just process and control everything right there. Thank you.
Did I? No, but earlier you caught me. And I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be really hard for Pilates teachers. Like, it's like, I think that's, I think it's easy to do that in our job.
Yes. Yeah.
Especially when we're running our own business in our minds a lot of the time.
Yep.
So it's like, but I think just letting the conversation happen. There's a few things as well I do notice, because I watch, like, I'll have like loads of videos, like when I'm doing admin, I'll have like, inspiring conversations like on YouTube, or like I'll play your one during the day. Like I'll just have like, I'll have silence sometimes, or I'll have music, but I'll make a choice. And then sometimes you just think, oh, it's just on in the background. And the most powerful times is when I've been, down, fed up, whatever, or and it's just been there, and you think, oh, what's it doing? And then it's not till like the next day that you realize, like, oh, wow, I've processed a lot.
Yeah.
And it's just because I've just let the conversation happen. I'm not even part of it. You're just listening.
True. I call that feeding my soul.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like when something's just like playing in the background, and then all of a sudden I tune in just as I hear them say something that I was like, wait, what was that? That's me. I need, you know what I mean? Like you're just feeding your subconscious. You're like, you're feeding your soul, or your soul crafting in those moments. Like that's it for me.
Right. So yesterday your conversation was feeding souls, like on the forgiveness. And that's when I was like, oh my God, I was like, you guys are amazing. Like, I love this. Brilliant. Like, great, good, go. Like, it was really good. It was really good. And it shouldn't be, but, just to see two men speaking about it so openly as well, it was.
Yes. I appreciate you saying that. I was actually going to invite you to say something on that, because I don't know how often you actually see two men just share that vulnerably.
It was really good. It was really good.
I appreciate the novelty of that. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
And both owning it as well. You both really like owned your path. It was delicate. It was so strong. Like, and heartfelt, and that's obviously why a lot of people connected with it, because I think it had so much value.
You know what's funny? Honestly, it just hit home when you said so strong. That really did touch me in a real way, because we talked about meekness, we talked about weakness, we talked about how when you show your when you show that, you know, that bare underbelly instead of your hard shell. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's true strength. And we talked about it. It's like, yeah, that's strength.
Yeah.
But then when you said it, it's just like, oh, that is strong.
Do you know what? Okay, so now my little brain is processing things. So I had this conversation recently with a well-known aerialist, and she did a showing, and I went to see it, and I'm often on my own at the moment. Like, I'm not in the city anymore. I'm just like chipping away at my business, like minding my business. And so I was in the city and I saw this show. So I was like a little bit overwhelmed already at like being in the city and loads of people. And I was at a showing and, you know, was sitting there. It's like, but her piece, I'm not saying anything at the moment because it's like a work, but I'm like so excited for her to do it and to share it. And it's in like research and development mode. And it's a very vulnerable, raw, honest piece. And I did a show, 2015, a few years ago now. And that was a showing that was something heartfelt to me. In her shadows, and I toured it as part of the Scottish Mental Health Arts and Film Festival. So I've been in the process of sharing something that's art, but very vulnerable and raw and true, and what that process is like, because you know it's over 2 years kind of thing, and it's your life, and you find that art imitates life, and you know there's a lot within it that's food for the soul, and she did this piece, and it was so interesting because she did a what you call a critical response process, which is where you invited to give feedback, but it's invited and you don't give an opinion. It's protective of the artist, and it's brilliant. The Scottish theatre do it, and it's a really healthy way to get feedback. And I didn't give anything during it because I just was like sitting playing small, like and I didn't because of like a few reasons, like people were speaking up and things like that. But then I spoke to her the next day, and it's hard to say this without saying what the show is about and the piece and everything. So anyway, the next day I said to her, do you want my feedback? I'd really really wanted to say something, but I just couldn't in the time in the piece. And what I was saying to her is like, she's an aerialist, like, you know, she's based all over the world. She's so strong, so amazing. And we had the whole conversation about, and I had this realization of her. I was like, you're so strong. But I was like, you're being so vulnerable. And I was like, but that's what makes you stronger. Like, that's what gives you the strength, is to show that vulnerability. And not everybody does that.
No. Right.
But I would say on this side of it, like, because for years, I spent my whole life, like, feeling, you know, struggle, play small, vulnerable, you know, all that, the struggle with it. And I would say on this side, if anybody is listening and feeling that they are playing small and not sure, I would just say it just gives you so much liberation, joy, freedom. Like, you know, it's worth the messy process to get through it. And as cheesy as it is, it really is that caterpillar to butterfly. And it's, you know, I've got friends that would come to me openly because of what I've shared. I've got, you know, I think it's worth going through that messy, and it's
absolutely,
I've gone off on a total tangent, but I think it's
no, you're right. You're still centered. You're so centered on that.
Yeah. I just think like what you shared yesterday, both of you, it was that's the end. That's like what we were saying. It's the end result of so much other work that you've done. And what I would say is it's just worth it. It's so like, you know, this whole be strong, you know, you're so strong thing. And I think that the strong is a, sometimes that's a barrier and it's a block, because you think you're being, and that's what stops going to the pain, the you know, the vulnerability, and you know, going there. And that is what is becomes the forcing it in movement, or you know, fighting against yourself because you're like, I'm strong, you know.
Right. But the strength, I think, is ill-defined. and we think that strength means this, but it actually means this. And that's kind of like we were saying earlier, when you're not being yourself, like we're allowing someone else to define who we are or what we do, when the reality of it is, yesterday what you saw was two Black men who know who they are, talking about how they came to that place of who they are today.
Yes.
So that's gonna continue to evolve, but we both have a good solid handle on who we are today. And that came out. And I think that was the strength. I think that's why that resonated with me when you said strong, is because it looked like it was this weak conversation of two guys saying, woe is me. But the reality is, it was a strong conversation about, like, look at what I learned in this process. Look at who I am today. Look at where I am today because of these things.
Yeah.
Two different things. So yes, like I appreciate that strength comment for that very reason. Much like your colleague, like with her work, like you show your weakness, which actually displays your strength, your confidence to put something out there and know that it's not going to destroy you when you expose your vulnerable cards, right?
And not being scared to get it wrong, you know, like just make the move, make the step, like get it wrong, get it, you know, don't say the right words, don't, I think it's like Jana talks about this, Zavino as well. She says a lot of the time, you know, and she says it on her podcast and things, like, if I haven't said the right word or I don't really know yet, I'm just going there. But it's like, just explore that. I think the exploration and the invitation to explore it is really powerful.
Yes. Yep.
It is, but honestly, like, I loved it yesterday. I think more of that. It was amazing. Well, just be yourself. The conversations are always good, but it was really, it did really like affect me. Like, I was really listening to it, and I was like, like I had a whole process with my relationship with forgiveness and what that looks like for me, you know. So I think you can't. The power of your words and conversation and people listening to it, I think the knock-on effect of that is really
profound, as Christina is saying. Yesterday's conversation was profound. It set the tone for the rest of my day, she says in her comment. Thank you so much. Wow.
That's good.
This today was also very soul feeding, Debbie. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, no worries.
Yeah,
I've probably gone off on a few tangents, so.
Oh, it's okay. Those are all worthy tangents. They're all.
That's what the sunshine does in Scotland when you're not used to it. It's like.
So mind clearing, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, so funny.
Yeah.
So good. All right, I'm gonna log off here, and but thank you for spending the day with me, spending the morning or your afternoon with me. That was so good.
Yay! Sorry for my my quick shop exit. You're like, oh, where's she gone?
I know, right? It's all good. If you guys missed that, she was like mid-sentence on some profound storytelling and then just dropped out. Completely dropped out.
I think I was like, oh my God, there was a moment.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's all good.
Funny.
All right, my friend. Thank you so much.
You.
Appreciate it. All right. Take care.
Bye.
And bye, everybody.